Hello, I'm James, and I'm an old guy in Europe. Hello, and welcome to another episode of An Old Guy in Europe. In this episode, I again joined Carl Munson on Good Morning Portugal on September 11th, 2023, which was the week after I returned from my trip to Ireland. And I share some more of my experiences and thoughts on things like accents, being an American resident of Portugal while a tourist in an English-speaking foreign country, and the brain acrobatics that are required to do all that, or at least they were for me, and a few other things. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy. Oh, and I forgot to mention craft beer in Portugal. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy.
What God only knows what sort of state he'll be in after his theme music.
He needs his music.
He does.
He?
2 minutes past 9.
It's
We'll
like,
see him
it's
after
fluffing
this.
him, isn't it? It's getting him
We
ready.
both get quite aroused by this music.
Yeah. Well,
so
I'm gonna get out because
and leave us
I
to it.
don't think I can handle all that testosterone.
Why? Have you got something coming up at 10:05?
I do.
No, go away. All right.
Bom dia!
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Oh, top of the morning to you.
Feliz segunda!
Alto de manhã. Is that top of the morning?
You know, I watched a few videos before I went over to Ireland just to kind of see what I could learn. And one of the things they said don't do in Ireland is don't say that phrase. So
No, I understand that.
They said, we don't say that here, so don't say that.
Yeah, and when Bobby says it, I think he's got a smile on his face, isn't he? He just knows he's kind of saying
pulling
it.
your leg. Yeah,
he is. Yeah. So fair enough.
But this one is genuine. I'm using it a lot now.
Have you used it?
It's a mindful thing. It's my reminder to meditate.
Yes, and
calm down.
Connect with your inner heckin' idiot. Yes, and we all are, aren't we, from time to time? Let's face it. So that's.
Hi, Louisa.
Magic hand.
Do you have a show coming on?
Oh yeah, James wants to know if you've got a show coming up anytime soon. Did she mention that? Right. Okay, look, we've got the fixture. Wales, she's good though, isn't she? You've got to hand it to her. Wales versus Portugal on Saturday the 16th. Oh, that I'm going to go to the Welsh bar for that. Can you imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like in the Welsh bar? And when you come to San Martino, I'll take you to the Welsh bar there, James, and we will see Tudor May, as we call him. That's going to be a great day in there, Saturday 16th. Is that this coming 16th of September? Fantastic.
Well, the ever-living dad joke in me says if I were playing rugby, I would not want to take on a bunch of whales.
Very good. I'm writing that down. I'll be using that.
Feel free. That's how dad jokes get spread. They're disease.
And thank you very much. You see that there you go. The jokes are passed on with pleasure, aren't they? Between dads and granddads and sons, whatever.
Yes.
So they can be handed down from generation to generation.
The pleasure of dads to the displeasure of everyone else.
Yes, indeed. That's all part of it too. Mum
That's
joke.
the tradition.
We were in the car at the weekend. We were traveling to Castelo Branco. And just as we get to the services, I say to everybody in the car, I'm going to the toilet. I'm going to pee. I'll see you in there. And Mrs. M says, what, in the toilet? With a little smile on her face. And I think, what? Oh, Mum, nicely done, Mum joke. And the classic Mum joke retort, well, I thought it was funny.
Uh-huh.
No, she was thinking it though. Okay, James, lovely pictures of you drinking Guinness, and I think it's triggered all sorts of inspiration for you. Thank you so much for broadcasting live from Ireland, and here you are back in the familiar surroundings, unless it is a carefully crafted green screen of your room.
No, and it's funny, as I was coming on this morning, it's like, was that only a week ago?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wow. I mean, the trip just seems like months at this point. I mean, it was a great trip. It's not like the week hasn't been boring, but yeah, it just goes so fast.
Doesn't it just? Yeah,
Yes.
and I don't know what that's down to. One of the authors I love greatly. Oh, come on! I'm trying to save your wonderful pictures here, but that's a nice little celestial sound, isn't it? Stuart Wilde. Anyone else remember Stuart Wilde? He wrote a book called The Quickening, and he was pretty sure that. Generally speaking, these times, time is speeding up for human beings. But how would you know that? And a lot of other people have the theory that they're just getting older, and their experience of time is because, when you were a kid, a day could seem like a week, and the summer holidays could seem like a year because
and it's science, it's physics.
What? Because
time is relative. That's the whole theory of relativity. That's it.
There you go. There you go. Oh, I did a quantum physics dad joke over the weekend as well. My quantum physicist mate did me a solid, kind of. Maybe that needs working on.
Beep,
Okay.
beep, beep.
Right.
Back
I
it
did a
up.
very good retort to it, which I forget now, but something to do with slit holes. Right in the double slit, somebody said. Some naughty person said on, but that is a quantum physics thing. The double slit.
Okay, well that may be why I didn't
Be
understand.
careful looking that up on the internet. However, sorry, where were we? Dad jokes, mum jokes.
I got
Ireland,
lost.
Time,
Relativity,
yes,
Ireland, Guinness,
time.
pictures.
Yeah, and should we go to that moment then? I think you could send this to Guinness because this is superb.
Well, this is after, by the way, these photos were after I talked to you on Monday and told you about my first Guinness in Ireland, but I didn't have photo evidence of it at the time. So I had Hank take a couple pictures of me when we got a Guinness the following day, I think. But I was trying to get the on my lip, and you just can't see it. So.
Well, you literally sorted it out in post, didn't you? You went back and refilmed it. So that'll be all right. It's show business.
Right.
And
I need that photo evidence.
And look at you focusing intently as you go down on the creamy stuff, as it were.
As it were.
Okay. Oh no!
And then there's an expression of delight.
Yes,
that was fun.
Oh, there's a touch of the leprechaun about you there as well, isn't there?
That's right. If you look very closely, you can see a little foam on my lip, but it's hard to see.
And you are in a suitably veloured watering hole there. That looks like a nice pub, nice booze.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. And again, I'm forgetting all the names of these pubs. I mean, there's millions of them, and the one we happen to step into is like which one was that? I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember hearing a story when I was a child of some relatives who went to Ireland, and they were in a knitting shop buying some wool, as you do in a knitting shop, or some new needles or whatever, and they got served a Guinness in there. And it's not just the millions of pubs, as you say. I mean, a lot of places serve booze, or they used to. Maybe that's changed. That was a long time ago, but I suspect you can get a drink if you need one. Just like in Portugal, actually. That's an interesting thing here, isn't it? You're never far away from a cold beer or a coffee in Portugal, are you? In the most unlikely of places. It's incredible.
I was going to say, or coffee, yeah.
Yeah.
So
what has been percolating for you after this heavenly event? I mean, you do look so pleased there, I have to say. So what's been going on?
I was having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really had quite, in addition to just the fun of going places and seeing things and all the rest of that, I was noticing, and it was almost, and this phrase just went through my head, forced mindfulness. It's like the thoughts were passing so strongly that I was noticing things that I hadn't really known about me in my process in Portugal. And I thought it could be somewhat informative to maybe anybody who is making a substantial change. But I think especially for Americans, because I noticed so many things that I realized were just my American fascination. And I assume that it's not the same for Europeans, because a lot of it's around language and culture. And while the United States is rich with language and culture, it is so spread out, and there's so many people that I think the likelihood of a repetition or similarity of an experience is reduced by virtue of the sheer number of people and distance between. So I started noticing my fascination, for instance, with foreign accents to me, with people speaking English, right? And I've had a few people, why are Americans so, stuck on accents? And I don't think we're stuck on them, but in Europe, it's all over the place all the time. And now that English is sort of the default international language, you get lots of English with lots of different accents. In the United States, you get English, maybe with some regional variations, occasionally an accent, but not like virtually every time you go out, you get many, many different accents, especially in Ericeira, any place where people are speaking a lot of English. So because of my ear, this is sort of I think what drew me to birding is I listen to identify. Right. So when it's birds, I'm trying to hear the bird song so I can identify the bird that I know that makes that sound. So I'm doing similar things with humans around accents, going, oh, is that French? Oh, that's clearly French. It's Slovakian of some kind. I don't know, sort of Eastern Europe. I've got my ear going with everybody. And then with Portuguese, I tune in without this idea that eavesdropping might be rude, because I don't understand, but maybe 10% of it. So I have no idea really what they're talking about, but I'm trying to hear the language. And I realized when I went to Ireland, even though in this case, everyone was speaking English, again, with all these various accents, I was tuning into, but there was in English. So I was understanding pretty much everything. It's like, oh, you're kind of eavesdropping. That's sort of rude,
What? And people stopping their conversations to go,
why is he putting his ear in between our faces?
Why is this guy sat with us now?
Yes.
Don't mind me. I'm just.
Is he listening?
Oh, sorry.
Yes. So there was that piece of it that I don't really, when I'm in Portugal, I don't really notice it. I became aware of it in Ireland because it was all English. And then that brought me to another one where I'm anticipating not understanding. And the only reason I wouldn't understand is how thick the accent might be. But it's all English, which led to this well, my first experience was coming in through immigration in Ireland. And I finally got to the window after being in 3 wrong lines, but they were moving very fast. And I just hadn't anticipated it. It's like I just arrived. I'm in Ireland. There's all this going on. There's probably nearly 1,000 people in the immigration area, and all this sound and all these voices and just almost overload. I finally get to the window, and I'm expecting to just say, hello, thank you, bye, something like that. And the young woman there asked me a question. And the first thing was, oh, it's in English.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that. And then it's like, oh, it's a question, so I have to answer. And my brain is going, tick, 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 tick.
Hello. Hello.
So all my answers started with, So it's like, what's the purpose of your visit? It's like, I'm just visiting, vacation.
I imagine all sorts of things are going through your head now.
Yeah, like, do I say that? I'm about to try to figure out how to say it in Portuguese.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't have to do that. So I back up. Where am I? Why am I here?
Yes.
All of it. And I was not expecting it. So the next question was, so where are you coming from? It's like, Portugal. It's like I'm trying to answer a quiz on a game show or something.
But also, were you also thinking to yourself, I'm sounding really hesitant, like I don't know where I'm coming from?
Yes. I say every time I'm going,
Yeah.
Talk about looking like an obvious someone who's trying to get away with something.
Yes, and they're pushing the button under the table, and
Yes,
some
right.
big guys are coming from out of the corner of your eye.
Security.
Yeah, he doesn't even know where he's from, or he's pretending he doesn't know. Hold on a minute. Next question.
Yes. Yeah. So that experience is like, wow, all of it is just flowing through my brain in this moment, this awareness of the fascination with, I'm actually talking with an Irish person, which, many people go, yes, so what? But first experience for me. And then later in the experience, something that came up around accents was after that one experience, I didn't hear another Irish accent for the next 30 or 40 people. They were all from other countries with other languages speaking English, but it was
in the airport, though, right? Or was this
all over Dublin too. It's just so rich with different nationalities and languages and people. And again, rather than being spread out, they're all in Dublin, in city center. So both those places. But even the guy who picked us up on what is it called, Free Now, the sort of Uber equivalent. He was from Tanzania, and so he was speaking English with a little bit. He'd been in Ireland for 12 years, so there's a little bit of the Irish lilt to it, but some Tanzanian accent in it. And I said, okay, that's not an Irish accent. And then it felt like it took, well, it probably did take at least into the next day before I heard just Irish citizens speaking English to each other with an Irish accent. And I said, oh, okay, there it is. Anyway, for me,
fascinating. It is fascinating from a sort of migration and culture point of view, isn't it? But you did feel like you were in Ireland, because you could have felt like you were in Disneyland, couldn't you? Or or the United Nations, a conference in a great big hotel complex of people from all over the world to come to talk about something. In this case, look at Ireland. Did it feel like Ireland, or did you feel like you were in just a major tourism event?
It's so bizarre, because then my brain went to what it's familiar with, right? Yes. And I wasn't in Portugal, and Ireland was very different. But we were the Airbnb we were in was at the outer edge of Dublin, so it was basically the suburbs.
Yes.
And other than the specific, very I don't know, traditional or stereotypical housing where you have double units that are on long lots, like in England, it felt like any suburb in California. So there's this sort of this disorientation of, where am I?
And your mind doesn't make sense of it, isn't it?
Yeah, the stereotype is, clovers and green hills and, shamrocks and little leprechauns running around, whatever the stereotype is. And here you're in this beautiful suburban neighborhood. The thing that really said Ireland to me was everything was green. And I was thinking, silly me, oh, it's August, things will be dried out and they'll be turning brown. But I can hear Deagle laughing now. We had a whole week. You're welcome, by the way, Deagle. I brought that with me, and then I brought the sunshine back for a little bit. So all of this stuff was new and not overwhelming, but just maybe overloading, just sensory overload, more and more. So I would catch myself in a moment thinking, oh, I'm acting like a tourist. It's like, you are a tourist.
Yes.
Instead of, because
right, you're allowed. You're not trying to integrate here. Relax.
Yes. And the language is your language. So they expect you to speak English. You don't have to ask, say you're sorry that you don't speak the language, to be respectful and honest. I mean, I'm not making that up. So, and then I found myself thinking, as part of that, to be responsible, should I be trying to speak with an Irish accent? They say, no, don't do that. It's because people will think you're mocking them.
That will not be good.
No, but there's a sense of, responsibility and obligation visiting another country. And I felt it in Ireland as well. I think I will in any country. But this readjustment after nearly 2 years of really trying to integrate and at the very least have a minimal way of communicating that I'm making an effort to speak their language, and I was free of it. So then I would catch myself needing to ask a question and going, oh no, will I understand the answer? Then it's like, it's English. I was like, oh yeah, right. I just had to keep reminding myself I can ask a question and get an answer, and I wasn't used to how easy that was. So there was a certain resting in that. It's like, I can relax in all of that. I don't have to constantly have the computer translating, trying to work what I'm doing and what I know and what I don't know, in addition to the cultural differences. And the culture is much more like the one I came from in the United States than in Portugal. But the people, I totally get that connection. They're lovely, they're friendly, they want to help. 2 or 3 times, one time we were just standing trying to figure out when the driver was going to get there, and a woman with her roller grocery thing walked up to us and said, "Oh no, don't bother, I can help you." Like, where are you looking to go? It's like, no, we're not trying to find out, we're not lost, we're just waiting for a ride. But she was there, she came up, and we didn't even know she was there, and walked up and offered help. And I kind of have a joke. I don't think it's insulting. I will risk it.
Let's find out.
It's like, how do you get an Irish person talking? Ask them a question. And off they go. They go with all kinds of stories and jokes and humor and good humoredness. It's just like, wow. So I figured out how to break that tension in the Uber. Just say,
it's probably a TED talk. It's probably a TED talk you're not going to see, isn't it? It's like, these TED talks about starting conversations for introverts. You just don't need that in Ireland, do you? I mean, you probably don't even need to ask a question. As you found out there, you just need to stand on a street corner and somebody comes up to you.
Just look lost.
Yeah, that's all there is to it.
So I just asked the driver, busy tonight? And the rest of the ride was just filled with stories, jokes, and a lot of self-beratement as humor, which is, it's just, it was just great. It was a great time. I ended up talking with one guy about our whiteness. He said, he says, I prefer the rain. It's a bit too sunny out for me. And I said, why is that? He says, the complexion. And I go, I can relate to that. I started to show him the arm with the tattoos, and the wrong arm. And I showed him the other arm, and he held his arm out. And then we turned our hands over and said, that's a tan. Because like the difference.
It's not just me then who says busy night when you get into a taxi. Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, well, and I was thinking, okay, so then what would the follow-up question be? It wasn't necessary. And it happened several times. Anyone who was Irish that we just even said, I don't know, simple questions like how long you've been working here, whatever, and then off it goes.
I'm loving this discombobulation, mindful discombobulation that's going on. I can see a number of factors at work in your mind. The wish to be a pleasant influence in the environment in which you find yourself, and that might be, in Portugal, you're thinking about integrating and being an asset to the community, fitting in. And then also, it's okay, actually, to be a tourist. And I'm not doing that at the moment. Where am I? What language am I speaking? Do I look like a fugitive taking refuge in this country, coming through passport control? I want to have a great time here, so I'm going to extend myself to speaking to people. I mean, all of that is going on before you've even opened your mouth in this.
Yes, and unconsciously, you don't know that's going on until it starts happening.
Yes.
So it was to me, it was a great awakening, and I'm really, every experience I get, and again, many Europeans are going to say, "So you've been to one country, big deal." No, we do that all the time, But for me, other than France and Italy and now Portugal, everything is going to be a first for me. Anything that's not those countries is going to be a first time ever.
How lovely.
And so new accents, new experiences of cultures. And I really understand, I'm going to have to learn it verbatim, but the statement, the thought that I think it was Mark Twain who talked about, if you travel to other countries, you'll have a different outlook on the world forever. That kind of thing.
Broadens the mind. Put simply, travel broadens the mind. It really does, doesn't it? And living abroad, traveling, all of these things I think help. And it's almost this great concern we have culturally of people worrying about having some sort of poor mental health as they age and doing Sudoku puzzles to keep their mind fit. I mean, moving abroad is a good substitute for that, I would say. Learning a new language is definitely, and trying to fit in is also another mental effort, isn't it? That's probably quite good. And I was asked a question yesterday, what is it meant to you moving to Portugal? And I said it's a new lease of life, and it's part of that. Part of the adjustment you have to make requires you to be fit of mind, whether or not you choose to be fit, and healthy in body. I think there's a certain you can't avoid the mental fitness and agility that's required to be in a new culture, unless you just drive in and out of a gated community and you're mixing with only your family and a few select friends. And that's going to be quite a difficult thing to do, thankfully, here in Portugal. So that's amazing. And then this as well, look at this. Bon dia, y'all. I've never used this phrase in the US. So you've got somebody who's come from the States, and they never used the phrase in the States, but now they're using it. Now they're out of the States. No one speaks this way in New Mexico, but next door in Texas, it is used widely. And now you're Aviva, y'all. It's great to have you here this morning, Aviva. And Pete, who was having his, he's a creature of habit, it turns out. Peter Bleach. Bom dia, alegria, muito chuva. Now, I drove back, Pete, from your neck of the woods, and I could probably see, if I can get the photo on the screen that I took of me and Mrs. Emma selfie with Monsanto in the background, I think we could see Phil's gaff. We could probably see yours as well if we look really closely. The rain coming back last night from the Castelo Branco area was frightening on the motorway. When it's dark and there are moments when you're on the motorway and the car is full of family traveling back late at night, and a coach overtakes you. I'm going at a speed that I'm thinking is safe, and then a coach comes thundering down, overtakes me, pulls in front of me, and I can't see for what seems like 30 seconds. It's probably only half a second, but it was terrifying at times last night on the journey. You can't stop, can you? You're committed to being on the motorway. If you're on a country road, you can say, okay, let's pull over and stop and wait for this to pass, and hopefully it will. But you don't have that luxury on a motorway. So at times it was terrifying last night, and it was rainy. We got a taste of your rain yesterday, literally, Pete. And at the gathering we were at, connecting with the conversation we're having this morning, James, the globalness, if you like, the internationalness of gatherings in Portugal. We had Hungarian people speaking German to the German people who were there. And I think the lady who I thought was German had French tattoos. There were Brits there. There were Brits with children who spoke Portuguese because they were in the Portuguese school system. And they were dating Portuguese kids. And there were other Brits. There were Portuguese people there. Just in that tiny little gathering, there were people. I didn't get to meet everybody. Oh, Americans there, Asian folks. I didn't get to speak to find out what their trajectory towards Portugal was. It was a truly international gathering in the middle of nowhere in Portugal, and I think we get to enjoy that here.
Well, that was my experience yesterday at Biricera.
Tell us about Biricera. How was that?
Biricera.
Yes, how was it?
That could have been Biricera. I have to share this anecdote at the very least. Well, first of all, everything you just said, all true there. My first experience of virtually every Portuguese person who was there also spoke English. It was a very international group. And of course, because these people are trying to promote their homegrown beers, so to speak, everyone at each of the stations also spoke English. I still didn't assume that. I went up and apologized. Desculpa, só falo pouco português. And they go, oh, no problem, I speak English. I said, oh, great. Thank you. But my very first, there's a line for how it was set up. You buy a glass for samples and a souvenir. And I was with Luisa and Sidonio, so typically I will default to them to work out whatever details are necessary. So Luisa starts in Portuguese with the guy to try and figure out how does this all work. And he stops and says in Portuguese that his Portuguese isn't very good. Does she speak English? and she looks at me and says, he does, because she speaks English too. She has a heavy accent. And he said, oh, so he immediately turns his attention to me and we start talking. He goes, oh, American. I go, yeah. are you Irish? He goes, yes. And I said, oh, that is so bizarre. I said, I was just in Ireland last week. And he goes, oh, really? And he didn't have a strong accent, but just enough for this finely tuned ear to pick it up. So he and I start talking. So here's someone from the U.S. talking to someone from Ireland in a relatively small city in Portugal at a festival for all of us. It was perfect, and it was quite funny that it's like, oh, Ireland, right here.
Amazing.
It was fun. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Superb. Jim White's joining us. Bon dia todos from a vibrant Porto. I imagine it's a bit drizzly there, isn't it? Because we've had a word from Rio Maior this morning. It looks like Pam is on the way to...
And Hank will tell you Porto is always vibrant. So...
Of course.
Yes.
And the best beer is Super Bock, no question. Rio Moya, it's very murky at the moment. I hope it's nicer in Lisbon. I don't have a coat. So easily done. You can set off, can't you? Thinking, oh, it's nice and warm out here on the Silver Coast. Don't need a coat. I was the only one I think had a coat as we set off yesterday with the family. Fortunately, we didn't have to get out of the car during that rainy period.
My Santa Cruz, California training was great. After years and years and years, I'd never go out without layers.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I am now acculturated to that. Yeah, it is a good idea, isn't it? And there's a lovely photo from you, Pam. The Nazare, one of the lovely. I wonder what those barco, a boat, a fishing boat. There, the traditional fishing boat of Nazare. I don't think they go out to sea too much anymore, but you'll see those lined up on the beachfront there. That's a beautiful photograph.
And I believe they have that shape because they're designed to be able to break through the waves going out.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? Because you
think that's why that design. I mean, you see it in a lot of the beach fishing villages, that particular type of boat, and I think that's why.
Yes,
not an expert, but
we've yet to see one on one of those 100-foot waves. But I think that could be. I mean, that'd make a great postcard of somebody in one of those at the top of one of those massive Nazare waves there.
That's not surfing. Watch me in his boat on a 100-foot wave.
Anyone want to buy a dorada? Well,
dragging a fishnet, just
that's right.
Millions of fish coming out of the sea. That would be wonderful.
That's manly in Portugal. Somebody fishing on one of those 100-foot waves there. Is this a fish dish? What's going on here? What have you got? Is this island?
No, that's not a fish dish. That's a pizza. And I, to Louisa's credit, she took that photo. And when I saw it, my previous life photography, I said, that is a really nice photo. So I asked her if she would mind if I edited it a bit just by leveling it out and framing it and sharing it. So yes, I thought that caught the event really nicely. That's the wall, the top of the wall looking out. And if you look to the far right, you'll see now, as soon as I was going to say it, Cabo da Roca. I think that's what it is. Cabo da Roca. The westernmost point of the continent of Europe.
Right. And it looks like you've got your beer and pizza on the beach, and that's a marble wall, isn't it, on there?
Yeah, it's the top of a marble wall. I actually found myself looking at I was taking a picture of the sunset, and then I was looking down at my phone, and it was pointing at the top of the wall. I took a picture of that. I didn't share it here, but it was just very interesting, kind of almost abstract. But yeah, it's the... But yeah, it's the marble wall with the pits in it and
looks great.
All laid out. Yeah.
Yeah. And is that an American IPA possibly that you're quaffing there?
No, actually, all of these beers are made in Portugal. They were all since I've been here, I've been wondering, are there microbreweries or craft breweries in Portugal? And if there are, where are they and where can you find the products? And so every once in a while I was looking for maybe a sample 6-pack from 6 different breweries or 6 different brews from one. Hadn't found anything like that. And then this came along, the Biricera, and I said, oh, perfect. I can go check that out. I don't know which ones these were. I know that my preferred, I tend to prefer a lighter, crisper, less hoppier beer.
Yes.
So I found a blonde ale made by a company or brewer called Mean Sardine, and I love all the fancy little names. The
It's a great
particular blonde they had was called Ericeira Sunset.
Very
And
nice.
that turned out to be my favorite of the. I said, "There's too many beers, and you can sample them all for free." It's like, who needs to buy a beer today? I had, that I don't know. It's basically a half pint size of glass or smaller, and you do that 4 times. You got that's me and my mini. I'm done.
You're a cheap date, aren't you? When it comes to booze.
So I tried three lights and found that the Ericeira Sunset from Mean Sardine was my favorite.
Okay, good to know. When I said American IPA, I wasn't thinking you'd got American beer, but I think that is a genre of craft ale that is brewed here, the American IPA. And I wonder if anyone in Portugal has thought of doing the IPA IPA. See what I did there?
IPA.
Perhaps.
IPA.
Yes, exactly.
It sounds like yippee-yo-ki-yay in English.
You have Bruce Willis on the
That's it.
stylized Bruce Willis.
IPA.